ուզում եմ բոլորից ցանկանալ արդյունավետ աշխատանքային օր, նաև ինչու՞ չէ հաճելի շփում ու ժամանց, խոսքս փոխանցեմ Վարուժան Աղովյանին, մեր սիրելի ու հարգելի, ու շարունակի։ Շնորհակալություն Դավիթ, բարի հարցեր։ Ուզում եմ մի քանի բառով ներկայացնեմ ձեռնակը, որը պատրաստվել է, թարգմանել մենք։ Ուրեմն այս ձեռնակը նախատեսված է ուսանողներին, կլինիստներին, լաբորատոր մասնագետներին շատ հակիրճ ձևով, կոմպակտ, շատ պարզ ներկայացում է հեմոստազը։ Հեմոստազում օգտագործվող լաբորատոր հետազոտությունների ցանկը, մեկնաբանությունները, ռեֆերենս միջակայքը եւ ինչ մեթոդներ օգտագործված եւ մեթոդների տարբերությունը, ինչ տեխնիկա է օգտագործված, ինչ սարքավորումներ են օգտագործված։ Այդ դենս արված, որ ովքեր որ գիտեմ 3-4 ժամանակ տրամադրել, ասած կվերականգնեն նրանց բոլոր գիտելիքներին բժշկականի, նաև ուզում եմ նշել, որ վերջի 2-3 էջերում կան թվային քրթական գործիքներ։ Դրանցից են հեմոսկորնա, այ հեմոստազիսնա, այս երկու application-ները կամ հավելվածները հնարավոր է դուք սմարթֆոներով եւ պլանշետներով դուք նայեք, օգտվեք, որտեղ կան տասնյակ ուղեցույցներ միջազգային, որ էքսպերտներն են պատրաստեն, նաև ունենք պոդքասթների մասին ինֆորմացիա, որը 10 րոպեանոց պոդքասթներ են, օնլայն դարբերակով դուք կարող եք նաև նայել։ Այդ պոդքասթների նպատակը, որ առօրյա աշխատանքային լաբորատորիաներում կարողանա մասնագետները, լաբորատոր մասնագետները հարցեր ուղղել Ստագոյի մասնագետներին, լինի դա տեխնիկական կամ գիտական, կամ այսինքն մասնագիտական։ Շատ լավ պոդքասթներ են, շատ լավ զրույցներ են, առօրյա խնդիրները, ինչ խնդիրներ են իրանք աշխատում, դուք կարող եք տեսնել ընդամենը մի 10 րոպեա։ Նաև կա վեբինարներ, ինչպես գիտեք, որ ժամանակ առ ժամանակ Ստագոն ներկայացնում է վեբինարներ, մենք հրավիրում ենք օնլայն դարբերակով, որ միանա, նաև այդ վեբինարները նրանք գրանցում են, ովքեր որ ժամանակ չեն ունենում ժամանակի միանալ այդ վեբինարներին, նրանք գրանցում են ստագո.com էջում, իրանք բոլոր վեբինարները գրանցված կարող եք մտնել նաև։ Ուզում ասել երկու բառով, շատ լավ ձեռնարկա, ես մի քանի անգամ արդեն կարդացել եմ, շատ հեշտ է ներկայացնում մագարտելությունը, որ մենք համարում ենք, որ ամենաբարդ առարկան, դժվարը մատչելի, բայց իրոք մի քանի անգամ որ կարդաք, տեսնեք, որ շատ բարձր է ներկայացված։ Շնորհակալություն։
Դիագնոստիկա Ստագոյի ընկերության վաճառքի և մարքեթինգի ղեկավար Paola Fuligni, խնդրում եմ։
Very good. So, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm really happy to be here with you because last year, unfortunately, I was remotely, but I have to say that it is much more interesting to be here physically and to be able to discuss with you. And it is definitely my duty this afternoon to be the first to introduce this full dedicated day to the hemostasis. First of all, nevertheless, I really want to thank our valuable colleague in Armenia because I have to say that Varujan and the big team made a great job. They were able to gather all those people, all of you, all these attendees, so it is really a big pleasure to discuss with you. So I will speak, of course, in English. I'm not very fluent in Armenian, I'm sorry. But whatever, if you need any further information, or if you have any comments to add, feel free to stop me during the presentation, no problem at all. I'm Paola, sorry, I don't know if I said. So, when I think to hemostasis from my perspective, I really think to a world, because Yeah, hemostasis in very, let's say, few words, we can say that the hemostasis is a mechanism that from the physiological standpoint, is a mechanism that the body put in place in order to stop the bleeding. Okay, that's fine. But then, if we go deeper in this mechanism, we can realize that this mechanism is really complex one. And it is made by several steps. Okay, so starting from the, let's say, the vasoconstriction, going through primary and secondary hemostasis, up to fibrinolysis. The most important thing to remember is that in this process, many components are involved. So you have to think that there are plasma proteins, blood cell components, platelets, and last but not least, vascular endothelium. So it is a complex mechanism for, let's say, to make it simple, we try to split in several steps. And during the years, as you very well know, some, let's say, models were put in place, were described in order to make this mechanism simpler. So I'm thinking of courses, for instance, to the coagulation cascade, so the intrinsic pathway and extrinsic pathway, and of course the complete process up to the fibrinolysis. Of course, these models are in vitro and are, let's say, an easy way to better understand the full process. Nevertheless, in spite that we know a lot of components in this field, still, we do believe that still many things must be discovered. So there is a lot of research ongoing on the hemostasis field. If I want really to make it really simple, I can split these components in two major categories, okay? So the category meaning this, all these components that go in the sense of the procoagulant forces, and the other family is, of course, the anticoagulant forces. So if those forces are in balance, everything's fine, it's okay, very good. But if one of the two forces is prevailing versus the other, we can go, the patient will go to the risk of bleeding or thrombosis according to where, of course, the forces are prevailing on the other. When we think to hemostasis, we think really to a discipline which is transversal, and this is for me a very key word, because the hemostasis is challenged in many clinical and pathological conditions. So I'm thinking to trauma, I'm thinking to infections, I'm thinking to some genetic impairs, why not autoimmune diseases, like as for instance lupus, we will have a presentation later. Cancer, surgery, etc., etc. So, in many clinical and pathological conditions, we need to test the coagulation potential and to get an analysis of this potential coagulation of the patient. During the year, definitely many blood disorders were discovered. So I'm thinking, of course, for instance, to hemophilia, from Willebrand diseases, the diseases related to thrombosis like venous thromboembolism, very important because many patients can be affected by this kind of pathologies. So all these, along with, of course, this clinical condition, many treatment and new drugs came up onto the market in order to treat the patient in the best way. And let's say that during the year, definitely, wherever, in every market, both in emerging market or more developed market, there was an increasing of the awareness of bleeding disorder. So this is why we expect the market analysts expect to have more and more during also the next year an increase of the number of tests in the field of coagulation, because definitely coagulation is one of the most sensitive area, and it is a real challenging topic. So this is the, let's say, what we have to think, that more and more we will have requests, both in terms of routine tests and of course the specialties. I was saying that along with pathologies, as soon as there is of course a pathological condition, pharma company of course come in order to find new drugs, new solutions. But if we think to secondary hemostasis, you know that the traditional, the historical treatment were always the AVKs and coumarin, etc. But since several years now, some few years, let's say, a new family of drugs came up into the market that you might know, that are the DOACs, they are called DOACs, direct or anticoagulant, anti-10A or anti-2A, according to the, let's say, the kind of the drug. But not only in this, let's say, in this part of the mechanism. Also, as for instance, in the field of hemophilia, yes, we know that hemophilia is a rare disease, but it is very cumbersome disease. It is very complicated, the management of the hemophilia patient. So new treatment came onto the market, like for instance, emicizumab or extended half-life recombinant products, as for instance, in order to increase the quality of life of those patients. It is very important also to consider the quality of the life of the patient. Last but not least, I'm thinking as for instance to primary hemostasis. So we know since a long time the antiplatelet aggregation like ASA, but of course new treatment in the market came again like ticagrelor or concagrelor, there are even other. So just only to make you understand that, let's say, a lot of new, let's say the field of coagulation in terms of treatment made a lot of evolutions, new drugs came up, and I would like to spend just only few words about DOACs. Why DOACs? Because first of all, DOACs are the anticoagulation treatment used in millions of patients, a patient at worldwide level. So they are very, very, very used. I don't know exactly what happens in Armenia, but in almost in every market, they overcome the patient under DOACs, definitely overcome the patient under AVK. In the same time, we have to know that these DOACs, this drug, have an important impact on the coagulation test. Okay, so because Rivarox, Savanna, Pixaman, etc., can increase or have an effect of increasing or decreasing some, let's say, component of the hemostasis mechanism. So this is why it is very important to know, to have the complete knowledge of the patient, from the clinical condition to the treatment which is applied to the patient itself. So, talking about educational tools, I invite you to have a look to this publication that we published quite recently here in Stago about the impact of DOACs in the coagulation test. Alors, we have to remember that the right monitoring of therapy, and in order to assure the right result, prevents overtreatment that may lead to thrombosis or hemorrhage. So it is really, really important. The message is, it is very important to know the complete environment of the patient that we are treating. So, challenging environment, a lot of new diseases, blood disorders that are discovered, a lot of new drugs, definitely a very dynamic environment. What is happening? We know, and definitely also the expert at worldwide level, I took some, let's say, some publication made up by Professor Plebani and Professor Lippi, which are Italian, like me, I'm sorry, but they are really recognized at international level. So all the experts agree that the laboratory is facing a more and more complexity. Okay, the complex situations are becoming almost, let's say, your normal life. And laboratory medicine plays an integrated role from the diagnosis to the long-term management of the disease. This is another publication, again, highlighting the importance of the medicine lab, diagnostic lab, sorry. How the diagnostic lab is integrated with the clinician. It is very important. The lab must support the clinician to get the outcome, the best outcome for the patient and the right diagnosis. I put this article because it is definitely new. It was published in August 2025. So, laboratory medicine definitely pivotal for the patient management. You are very important. Since the beginning of the management of the patient, meaning from the first diagnosis to the final outcome. Very good. So, in this challenging environment, do we think that whatever we use is the same? I don't think so, because in order to get the best outcome, in order to support the clinicians in the best way, we are really to be sure to use the right and the best-in-class diagnostic tools. So, also, we are not the only one to think about it. And thankfully, some international, let's say, regulation body came up and released, and they understand, of course, the challenge of the situation. And in order to select, to make a sort of, let's say, screening, no, of to select the right diagnostic tool, a new directive in the European Union was released. You might have heard about the IVDR regulation, which is very important because it is very cumbersome for the manufacturer, because now, from our perspective, when we release a product, but also we have to have the IVDR compliance for all the products of our catalog, we have to demonstrate not only the analytical performance, but also the clinical evidence of the product. So meaning that the added value that a product, an IVD product brings to the patient. We have some deadlines as a manufacturer. So till, let's say the deadline was 2027 in order to get all the product panel in the catalog of the manufacturer ready. From our perspective, we are almost finished all the, let's say, the IVDR mark for our products. So, we do believe that challenging world, challenging topics, challenging more and more difficult patient, generally speaking, complex mechanism needs a high level of expertise and know-how. So, I would like to tell you just spending a few words about Stago, how we move, how we work, which is our approach. So, first of all, the company is on the market since more than 60 years now, and all the company is fully dedicated to coagulation. So our R&D started from our R&D department up to the people involved on the field, like me and my colleague are. Also, our valuable partners are very expert in coagulation because we take care, of course, to have a high level of expertise and know-how.
And we have a very easy, but very clear and very important according to vision. So we want to be the reference of blood-based diagnosis, okay? So we really need to always remember that behind the test, we were discussing before with Nino, there is always a patient. So not all the tests are the same. What do we do? How we work? So we want to bring our know-how, our scientific contribution to make the difference. We are used to collaborate with the research lab, but also with, as for instance, pharmaceutical. We made a big, huge development of the test for dogs, along with the pharma companies, as for instance. University, we work with the university, hospital, etc., etc. We want, the concept is to transfer our knowledge into innovation and to get, let's say, ideas and products and services that are really at the highest level of quality. Okay. This is just only a picture, very short picture of our company. So when we say Stago, actually behind the name there is a group of a family of sister company, because we consider that to get the best result, to manufacture the best PT that seems very easy, we need to have the raw material, the standardized, the right standardized products, etc. So each company within the group is dedicated to something specific in order to be an excellence in its own field. All our company comply with the international norm and standard and recommendation, of course. So finally, if in synthesis, of course, we are fully dedicated, as you very well understood, to coagulation tests, starting from routine up to specialties, and we put definitely the same dedication and special attention to this test. I would like just only to spend a few words about PT. PT seems really an easy test, everybody can perform, in every lab is performed. Plenty of tests are performed every day because, as you know, PT is really the most requested test in the coagulation field. Nevertheless, behind the PT, which is very cheap, let's say, test, it is very easy to perform, there is a huge work in order to get the best product and to get the best standardization, because PT is really important, because it can be, the request can come from, for the patient who is going to a surgery, or for the monitoring the anticoagulation drug treatment, or, as for instance, to evaluate the factor of the extrinsic pathway. So it is very important to assure the best quality also in an easy test like PT. So what we do? We do a lot of things behind one of our reagents. First of all, what we really take care a lot, it is also to, how can I say, to make our products evolve during the year, so to increase the quality and to improve our products. Of course, we are always comply to the international standard, so in the standardization, all the reagents, all the lots are standardized according to the WHO standards. We provide you the ISI, which is definitely very important. You cannot say why an ISI not accurate, because on the ISI you know that it is based INR, which is the, let's say, data which is used to adapt the therapy to the anticoagulated patient. So that we have, let's say, the maximum standardization of our product. You can also have, how can I say, the evidence from the fact that we are the only manufacturer in the coagulation field who is able to provide our user with a precalibrated curve, meaning that for that lot, whatever you perform a PT, if you are in Yerevan or if you are in Australia or in Milan where I live, you will have always the same result because the curve is the same for all our users. And this is what I was telling you before. We really need to assure the adequate, the correct INR to the patient in order not to, let's say, to unbalance this patient, to move this patient towards the risk of thrombosis or bleeding. So, is the quality of, let's say, of a test is based only on a reagent? No, we don't believe this. We believe that the quality is based on a set of elements, on a set of the right elements. So, in our case, of course, we want to master the quality of the whole process, starting from the raw material, I was telling you before. So we want to get the best-in-class reagent, which are applied with validated protocol by Stago. You don't have to do anything. You have already everything already prepared for you. And of course, our instrument, whatever you choose, are always equipped with the VBDS technology, which is the reference method technology in the coagulation field. But also important is the cuvette, because in the cuvette it seems stupid, it's something plastic. No, it's not stupid, because in the cuvette you have the reaction, so you have to be sure that the quality of the material, the cuvette, is at the highest level of quality. And if you could visit our manufacturing site for cuvette one day, I hope so, you will see that we control each cuvette in order to assure the perfect quality and to have the perfect result. We close the, let's say, the suite of products with what we consider as services, meaning that we want to be close to our, let's say, end user. We want to bring a constant support, and of course also to help people with interpretation or news or scientific information. So we developed also digital tools. I will spend one word later. And we believe a lot in the educational tool. Varujan gave us a very nice presentation about the tool that they translated in Armenian from our, let's say, original English version, and I really thank Varujan because I consider that is really a great tool to use in the routine mode. Then Varujan has explained already everything very good. We really want to increase to pay attention to the education with webinar, practical booklet, etc. Last but not least, quality assessment, because as for instance in the accreditation process, the evaluation and the monitoring of the quality is more and more important. It is definitely mandatory. So, our mission, we consider that we want to combine the legacy. For us, the legacy is really the things and the products that we have since ever, and we cannot, let's say, live without that, without them, because they make the difference and they assure the quality. But of course, we want to bring also innovation, so this is why we are also here today. So, starting from the tradition, starting from our, let's say, first starting point, the detection method, which is, sorry to repeat, but it is very important to remind it, the reference method in the coagulation, for the coagulation test, because it is this is written, it's not me who's saying that. It is the CLSI, in this specific CLSI H21A5, where you can really, it is definitely stated that the mechanical method is the reference, because of course it is completely insensitive to difficult plasmas, like plasmas where you can find hemolysis or lipemia or icterus, etc. It is important to get the maximum precision, as for instance for samples with weak clots, and it allows the standardization of this Stago instrument. So we minimize the source of errors, definitely, and you don't need to retest anything, because maybe the samples were really in bad condition and you want to see. No, because there is no impact on the result. So whatever you use, this is the max generation family, which is the actual generation of the analyzer that we, let's say, that we are distributing. Yeah, whatever, from the smaller semi-automated to the biggest instrument, you have always on board this VBDS gold standard technology. All the reagents are the same, whatever use, etc. Standardization is really a must, and quality. Along with this, of course, more and more, you know that in every, let's say, field of our life, the digital is more and more important. So we have in our, let's say, product catalog a middleware. We consider it a middleware, which is able, let's say, to supporting the diagnosis, because you can find some expert rules, some algorithms, specific algorithms, as for instance, for lupus. Lupus is not always that easy to understand the clinical condition of the patient. But of course, it helps also in the automation of the process of the lab, to, of course, to secure the data, definitely, and to manage the coagulation area in one shot, that have in the same, let's say, screenshot, the condition of the quality of my coagulation area. Moreover, of course, with the middleware, you can connect more than one instrument, working like if it was just only one, even you can connect whatever you want in terms of number of instruments. But you can connect also different sites. So if I have an instrument in the hospital 1 and another instrument in hospital 2, with the middleware, I can check remotely the situation, the work of each analyzer. Quality solution, I would like just only to remind you this, because again, I really don't know exactly the situation in Armenia, but more and more in all the countries, the medical lab are required to be accredited according to ISO 15189, which is, let's say, a sort of rules, a sort of guidelines that, let's say, help to assure that the quality that the lab is doing is at the best condition. So we start, of course, from the internal control that you can use in a routine mode every day or according to your procedures, going through the peer group comparison, the external control peer group comparison, up to the external quality assessment, which are the samples that are unknown, and it is really helpful to evaluate the accuracy of the result of the lab. Sorry, too fast. I'm going to finish my presentation with just only these two information, because you know, besides, let's say, the normal, what I say normal, the core lab, the test performed in the core lab, okay, the test that we saw before, we do believe that there are also other kind of tests that are not new, honestly, because they are present on the market since many years, which are, for instance, which are called the global test. So in our case, we do believe a lot in trauma generation. We have two companies within the group really dedicated to this kind of test. This kind of test is interesting, very, let's say from the conceptual standpoint, very interesting, because it is able to evaluate the complete coagulation potential of the patient. So you have the complete curve of the coagulation, of the sample coagulation. And I finished just only this presentation with let's say, the spoiler, saying that we are launching a new family of analyzer besides the actual max generation. And of course, you know, news can also go along with the news in every sense. David before was speaking about artificial intelligence. So of course, our new platform will be equipped with the artificial intelligence in order to increase and to support more and more the diagnostic lab. We will see this family, which is called, just only want to tell you the name, STIMO family range. So we'll see later with my colleague Greg. And from my side, I'm done. If you have any question, I'm here.